Under the impact of the Great Depression 1929 to 1933, Hitler became Chancellor, then the leader of Germany in 1933. He implemented various policies to eliminate revolutionary forces in preparation for a war to redistribute markets. Hitler took 8 different steps to instigate the bloodiest world war in history outside of human capacity. After losing in World War I 1914 to 1918, Germany had to accept the Treaty of Versailles 1919 with harsh terms. Germany was accused of causing the war, so it was responsible for paying reparations. Germany had to pay a total of £6.6 billion equivalent to 130 billion gold marks. The army is extremely limited and weakened. There is no air force. Army limited to 100,000 people, no tanks or heavy weapons. The Navy maintains 6 warships. There are no submarines. German territory was cut off to France, Belgium, Poland, and Denmark. Germany's colonies were handed over to Britain, France, and Japan through the League of Nations under the Mandate mechanism. That made Germans feel disappointed, dissatisfied, and hateful. Taking advantage of the German people's dissatisfaction and hatred towards other capitalist countries, especially the Treaty of Versailles, Hitler and the Nazi Party aroused aggression and war plots in Germany. Under the impact of the Great Depression 1929 to 1933, Hitler became Prime Minister, then German Führer in 1933. Implemented many policies to eliminate revolutionary forces to prepare for war to redistribute the market. Hitler took 8 different steps to cause the bloodiest world war in human history. First, Hitler used propaganda, exhorting national pride to get the people of the Saar region to vote to return to Germany in 1935. According to the Treaty of Versailles, the Saar was handed over to France for 15 years as compensation. The cost of war will then be decided on sovereignty. Hitler used the guise of nationalism to bring back the Saar. This was the first step to breaking the Treaty of Versailles. Second, also in 1935, Hitler mobilized the army and rearmed. According to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was only allowed to maintain an army of 100,000 soldiers with a limited number of weapons. Using the excuse of France, they increased the conscription period from 12 to 18 months. Right in 1935, Germany mobilized 600,000 soldiers, initially preparing the army for war. In particular, despite being banned from producing aircraft, tanks, heavy weapons, and submarines, in 1935, Germany massively rearmed. Faced with that situation, Britain and France implemented a policy of accommodation and compromise to entice Germany to attack the Soviet Union and revolutionize Europe. Therefore, Britain signed a naval treaty with Germany, allowing the German Navy to reach a ratio of 3/5 of Britain's. Third, Hitler sent troops to invade the Rhineland region on March 7, 1936, since 1919. This has been a demilitarized zone right next to the border between France and Belgium because France feared Germany would send troops to attack France. Although Hitler only sent a small number of troops to station in the Rhineland, France and Britain continued to accommodate him without taking any action to stop him, helping Hitler become more arrogant and prepare for war. Fourth, Germany invaded Austria in 1938. This was taboo in the Treaty of Versailles because countries feared that a united German-Austrian faction would cause war. Hitler continued to arouse extreme nationalism, using Austrian fascist forces and Germans at Anschluss, Austria, to wage war. In 1934, Austrian Nazis assassinated the Austrian Führer, Dollfuss. However, Italy opposed Hitler sending troops into Austria out of fear. After Germany and Italy became an alliance in 1936, Hitler quickly sent troops to invade Austria. Thereby, Germany has more labor and human resources for the army and important raw material areas to prepare for war. Once again, Britain and France implemented a policy of accommodation and took no counteraction. Fifth, Germany occupied the Sudetenland Czechoslovakia in 1938. This is a land with an important strategic position in Europe and about 3.5 million Germans live here. Hitler continued to incite Germans here to stage protests and riots, demanding separation from Czechoslovakia. Britain and France were now really afraid that Germany would expand the war to all of Europe, so they sought to intervene. Mussolini Italy proposed that the leaders of England, France, Germany, and Italy meet in Munich to resolve the Sudetenland issue. The Munich Conference can be considered the pinnacle of Britain and France's accommodating policy towards Germany, and also an event that demonstrated Hitler's growing ambitions. In the first meeting September 15, 1938, Hitler declared the Sudetenland as Germany's last demand before moving to attack the Soviet Union and the World Revolutionary Movement. The British Prime Minister, Chamberlain, made concessions so that Germany could have the Sudetenland. In the second meeting September 22, 1938, Germany demanded more, causing Britain to refuse. At the third meeting September 29, 1938, Britain finally agreed to give the Sudetenland to Germany. Czechoslovak representatives were not allowed to participate in the discussion, but were only invited to hear the final decision. Czechoslovakia was also not supported by its allies Britain and France. If Czechoslovakia resolutely opposes the German army, it will have to bear responsibility. Thus, the Munich Conference not only gave part of Czechoslovakia land to Germany, but also created opportunities for Germany to have more land claims in Europe. Small and medium-sized countries in Europe no longer trust Britain and France because the two countries have sold out their allies for their own interests and calculations. Sixth, Germany completely occupied Czechoslovakia on March 15, 1939, after the Munich Conference. Britain and Germany signed a secret agreement declaring no military attacks on each other and using diplomacy as a method of resolving conflicts. Hitler saw that Britain and France were harboring him and were not ready for war, so Germany quickly sent troops to invade all of Czechoslovakia. Once again, allies Britain and France did not react. The atmosphere of Europe is increasingly filled with the smell of gunpowder. Seventh, Germany signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union on August 23, 1939, although he declared against communism and the World Revolutionary Movement. Hitler learned lessons from World War I in dealing with two fronts at the same time, so he sought to make peace with the Soviet Union, to focus on invading other capitalist Western countries. On the Soviet side, Stalin was also worried about the expansion of fascist aggression, so he repeatedly sought to establish anti-fascist alliances with France, Czechoslovakia, and England. But all failed even before the Soviet Union's proposal for discussion. Britain still hesitated, wanting to use Germany to attack the Soviet Union. He only sent a low-level representative without the authority to sign decisions, and went to Moscow by slow transport to discuss. That forced the Soviet Union to choose to sign a non-aggression pact with Germany to have more time to prepare for war. Eighth, Germany invaded Poland on September 1, 1939. This event was the direct trigger that led to World War II 1939 to 1945. Allies Britain and France could no longer stand by and watch like before, so on September 3, 1939, they declared war on Germany. World War broke out in Europe. At the same time, Italy expanded its aggression in North Africa. Japan's aggression in Asia-Pacific. The war has spread throughout the world. Germany quickly invaded most European countries, and on June 22, 1941 began attacking the Soviet Union. The World War became a war of revolutionary forces who loved world peace against fascist forces and aggressive militarists in the world. Thus, since Hitler came to power in 1933 and implemented a policy of fascisation, both domestically and internationally, the atmosphere of war has enveloped Europe. In addition to the 8 steps to prepare, Germany also withdrew from the League of Nations, withdrew from disarmament conferences, and sent troops to support the Franco-fascist forces in Spain 1936 to 1939 to prepare for war. But besides that, Britain and France, with their policy of accommodation, created conditions for Hitler to militarize the country and expand his invasion throughout Europe.